for joining me for today's Fireside chat with the management team from InductEV, featuring Chairman and CEO Barry Liebert. I'm James West, as many of you know, and I run the Sustainable Technologies and Clean Energy team for Evercore ISI. InductEV is a leader in the development of wireless power charging technology for electric vehicles. The company's proprietary magnetic induction system offers commercial and passenger electric and hybrid vehicles the ability to charge their batteries under all weather conditions and completely automatic operations. Drivers no longer need to plug their vehicles into the charging stations and can charge their vehicles routinely to achieve a full charge and opportunistically while traveling from destination to destination to achieve longer vehicle driving ranges. InductEV's system for electric vehicles have been demonstrated with multiple vehicle types and can be installed at prices comparable to level 2 plug-in public chargers. This technology is compatible with today's electric vehicle technology, but is designed to meet the needs of tomorrow's more advanced vehicles. Barry is a highly accomplished entrepreneur and executive with over 40 years of experience across various industries, including energy, education, finance, consulting, and EV charging, of course. As the Chief Executive Officer of InductEV since 2022, he's been instrumental in driving the company's growth and success, and he is currently also the CEO and founder of AI Matters and a board member at InductEV, WellAware, TermGrid, Silvergrid, Repsinco, Estate Space, and Anaconda. Barry graduated from Tufts University in economics, including an MBA at Columbia Business School, and he's also joined by Brian Callahan, the company's Chief Financial Officer. With that, Barry, let me turn it back to you to go through a few slides on the company.
James, thanks for inviting us today. Let me just start quickly with an overview of who we are as a management team. Our basic agenda is to electrify and decarbonize the commercial fleets of the future. If you can go forward, Brian, starting last July with our lead investor, which is Rob Raymond, we reconstructed the firm, narrowed the focus of the organization, rebuilt the management team. Brian's the CFO, Tawny Perry is my CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, Chuck Russell is our President COO, Brendan Engelwitz is our Chief Revenue Officer. They are supported by Tony Calabro, who's our Chief Technology Officer, responsible for the product roadmap, Jason Stolness, VP of Engineering, and Adam Shabel, who's VP Supply Chain. We also have another part of our business, and that business is primarily focused on the hardware, software, and data, which we'll be talking about. But we do have an energy wireless team as well, because we believe that today's charge point networks will be antiquated by ultimately and replaced by wireless networks. No different than your Wi-Fi network that's run by John Rizzo, Todd Kaiser, Mark Herman, and Dave Dealey. So move forward. Brian, you want to talk quickly about the technology, and then we'll move to Q&A after we just give you a quick overview of the company.
Sure, thanks, Barry. So what we offer is wireless, or what we'll call automatic charging. We can operate high volume, high utilization, high dollar fleets, keep them in constant motion, keep them in constant usage throughout the day, instead of having to go back to depots and sit and charge. So we do opportunity charging at high speed, high energy, and it keeps the fleets moving. We do that with a ground assembly in the pad, in the ground, flush. It can be paved over, snow, wet, nothing deters it. And there's a vehicle pad. We can do 75 all the way up to 450 kilowatts. We also work in recurring revenues with as-a-service management. We do software, we do data analytics, we do fleet management, we do optimization of charging, all baseline recurring revenues to help support our customers and obviously our go-to-market strategy. And the entire system is modular and has many benefits, as we outline here. We can use it on all different types of vehicles. So whether it's a 75 kilowatt pad, 150 kilowatt vehicle, or even a 300 kilowatt vehicle, they can all use the same charging infrastructure. So you get high utilization out of your charging infrastructure. So whether you're a 300 kilowatt vehicle or 75 kilowatt vehicle, they can all use the same chargers. You can do this, as you can imagine, behind the fence at a port, depot, intermodal facilities. Many different vehicle types are all going to be able to use the same charging system. Some of the key benefits to the system is, like I said, it's automatic, particularly when you're talking about high dollar, high utilization fleets. You don't need someone standing around plugging these things in. Autonomous vehicles, it's a perfect opportunity. It's a solid state system, very few moving parts, very little maintenance. It's fast and efficient. It is a system that will deliver power as fast and as or even more efficient than its equivalent wired charging system. Has the flexibility, like I said, modular system to do all different types of vehicles. We can mount the pad on any type of vehicle and it can charge off the same infrastructure. We actually also can severely extend the battery life, doing a optimal charging scenario where it's 50 to 80% not fully charging and discharging batteries will significantly extend the life of the battery, which is the most expensive component of the vehicles. So that opportunistic charging has the benefits of extending the battery life 2 times to as much as 8 times, depending on the use case. So as some of these benefits you can see is a very low TCO. Between the low cost of maintenance, you can actually use less vehicles, you can use less charging infrastructure because of the being able to use the infrastructure across all different types of vehicles and keeping the vehicles in operation constantly throughout the day instead of having to sit back in depot charging. You don't need as many vehicles. So it's a very low TCO system when you take into all consideration all the factors that running a fleet is going to demand. And as I mentioned, it's all weather, whether it's snow, rain, sleet, we can charge through anything. Blocks of ice, nothing is going to deter the charge. The only thing, obviously, we don't want metal in between there, and we have a whole system to identify that. But there really isn't debris or anything else that will deter the charging. As you can see here, we have a pretty established footprint throughout US and going into Europe. We have buses, we have trucks, we have taxi fleets. We have active 7 OEM partners through Gillig and BYD and Green Power on the transit side, working with Volvo cars, Jaguar, Volvo trucks, and among some of the other ones. We have over 12 customers in service that have been running systems over multiple years. We've had vehicles in service for about 4 years at this point using the system.
James, back to you.
Well, great. Thanks, Brian, for that overview. Thanks, Barry, for the intro. I think maybe the first question, really for our viewers, and I want to let everybody in the lines obviously know that well, first off, that Barry and Brian are willing to answer any questions you have. So please put those in the Q&A box at any time, and I'll make sure to pass those through. But I think Barry, would be helpful. You are a little bit newer to the company, but you know the history in the past. Could you talk a little bit about the origin story of InductEV and kind of the early goals and missions, and then where we are now?
Sure, thank you very much. So the company was started in 2009 with a simple goal to simplify fleet charging through wireless technology. That basic thesis has continued through today. What happened is in the summer of 2022, we decided that we needed to move from an R&D function to really commercialization. We'd been in functional, basically, deployments for about 4 years. The amount of demand had accelerated, and we realized that we had to transition the company, well, I'll say, from a seed invested company to a commercial, basically, growth company. So in that process, we made significant changes, from changing the name, which was originally Momentum Dynamics, to InductEV, to basically expanding the footprint of the management team, to accelerating our technology stack to include not just hardware, but software and machine learning, including AI. And we also realized we were already in the wireless charging business. So instead of a traditional CPO, charge point operator, we were going to be the first wireless charge point operator. So that gives you sort of the last 9 to 10 months of this transition from R&D to commercialization.
Okay, got it. Makes sense. And you guys recently completed a Series B financing round. The technology is gaining traction, as you mentioned. Could you talk about some of the recent investments you've made and what your capital allocation strategy is?
Sure. So we're in the process of closing our $30 million Series B. It's really for 5 sources and uses of funds. One is to accelerate our technology deployments and development. As you think about it, this industry is primarily hardware, as were we. We needed to think about how we would not just accelerate our technology stack, which is by making it thinner and smaller, making it more advanced, so we can extend the footprint from maybe 15 feet away to 1,000 feet away. but also to include the stack so that we use software and our machine learning to basically accelerate our customers' deployments, making it easier for them to understand the energy deployment, energy management for the systems, how they were using their vehicles, what type of energy was being used. The third thing was to develop a world-class management team. We recruited people like Chuck Russell, who was head of EV engineering at GM, Brendan Enowitz, who's head of sales at Last Mile, Electric Last Mile, and a variety of others. John Rizzo, who had been with Apple, who's head of our energy management and electrification system. Finally, to basically build out our wireless charging network and to grow our customer base. Those were the 5 primary use cases and uses of our $30 million Series B.
Got it. And questions coming in from the line. We've got a couple actually, but the first one is, what's the model here? Is it an owner-operator model, or is it a hardware and software sales model?
Very good question. It's both. It's an and, not an or. We do sell the hardware, and we do not sell the software. We do sell the hardware to a variety of our transit customers and commercial customers that always remind us that their balance sheet is bigger than ours and they want to own it and service it, as long as we provide them with warranties. So we do that. But increasingly, customers don't want the balance sheet risks. So we are also renting our software and our hardware.
Okay, got it. And then maybe another question on my end. You talk about the evolution from plug-in to eventually to wireless. I guess why do you think that's necessary? And what is the focus area, or how do you think commercial adoption and consumer adoption will change over time?
Sure. So let me first start. Why do I think wireless is critical? When's the last time, James, you used a wireline phone to make a phone call? Even on this one, I don't see you with it.
I have a phone in here. I've never used it, but I got this one.
Me too. So in fact, this is how I describe it to all my friends. So the way I think about this particular product is this product, which I'll call this our VA, if you don't mind, is our vehicle assembly,
sure.
Is a perfect way to basically transmit energy. And this particular phone, which is an Apple phone, has a MagSafe, which is basically a magnetic resonance charging device. And so you can't imagine Apple going back and saying to Amazon, gee, let's just go plug in all of your phones for all of your people, for 1 million people. So I think the reality is we've all moved away from wireline everything. I mean, everybody's cutting cord from both phones and Comcast to AT&T. And so our first thesis is wireless is our future, right? And it's not just about the electrification movement. It's basically in all parts of our lives. The second thing is, you asked the question, is where did we understand and how would we basically focus our efforts? So when we started going from R&D last summertime to commercialization and deployments and scaling, we thought, where was the best application? It was in, think of it as high capital assets, which is commercial vehicles, low dwell, where the vehicles are not like my Teslas sitting in my garage all day long, where they're going round and round and round. Think of like a Amazon Cloud or Google Cloud, up 99.99%. They're up all day long. And third, what we'll call continuous loops, so that ultimately that vehicle is expensive. It needs to be in deployment regularly, like a cloud product, and it's continuous loops. So we focus on those types of activities, which is ports, intramodal facilities, locomotives, you name it, where there is something that is a designation and defined loop, including transit and commercial.
Got it. Well, we've got another one from the line from an anonymous attendee, although it seems like it's someone that may know the company because it's a very specific question. So it could be one of your stakeholders here. Any update on the efforts to sign an alliance airport or an agreement with one of the big utilities, or an MOU or a JV or strategic investment?
Interesting question. They must know something about the company. We are under discussions, and Alliance has said that we can absolutely, and ITSCon Global use their names. We're signing some very, very large transactions and partnerships, both on the energy side for our wireless charging networks, as well as on the commercial side. I think what we've learned, and Brian and I have been in hundreds of these things since last summertime with Rob Raymond.
Sure.
What we've learned is that most people thought we were in stealth, that we were an R&D shop. And as we come out of stealth, I don't think we're ever in stealth, but as we come out of stealth mode, what we're finding is we're overwhelmed with people that want to understand how they can deploy a wireless environment, especially in the what I'll call logistics and real estate world, where real estate is, I'll say, in short supply, right? These are very, very contained environments, and they don't want to give up designated sites for wired charging.
Got it. Okay. And then as you think about the demand growth here, we're also getting a big push from governments, whether that's through the infrastructure bill or the IRA or the Repower AU bill. Could you maybe talk a bit about how you can lever into some of these subsidy programs to help grow your business faster?
Yeah, there are programs. The good news for us is, as we said, both Rob and John Raymond are well connected. John is good friends with Governor Newsom and asked the exact same questions last Sunday, which is how do we start to basically create a wireless network in California, not just a wired network in California. And so what we're seeing is this movement both on the government side and the commercial side, both with, I'll say, government subsidies, which we're in a variety of conversations there, as well as corporate balance sheets, to think about what is the best application to accelerate our growth and basically to continue, I'll say, a wireless future, which is true in every parts of our society.
Absolutely. I think we're also seeing the increasingly focus on decarbonization. So this electrification movement makes a lot of sense in here, and rising interest, of course, in EV charging will increase probably some competition. What do you see in the market today as how your technology is differentiated versus what may be some peers out there?
Yeah, so we do have some peers. They tend to be in what I call the retail market or the low end market or the low power market. SAE does have a well-defined standard for low power market. And so there are some real competitors there in the low power charging market that are wireless. In the high power market, and obviously staying on the low power market, with everybody from Enel to, if that's how you spell the Italian name, Enel to Walmart announcing charge point locations this week alone for, I think, between the two of them, 15,000 locations. You do see both wired and low power wireless emerging. I think the high powered market has been traditionally not perceived to be the place to be for a variety of reasons. The batteries had to be bigger and more powerful. The vehicles were more expensive. The concept of wireless and charging, what people were frightened of, and I'll give you a funny story about that in a minute here. People were concerned that could they really provide a wireless charge to a major, $1 million transit vehicle or multi-million-dollar construction vehicle or locomotive. One of our customers recently told us that they had done some tests, and there was more induction charge coming off their seats, heating the seats of the drivers, than there were off of our wireless charge. So I think it's early stages for people understanding the power of wireless electricity and its ability to provide that clean energy to the commercial markets, which I think will come after the retail markets. But there is no shortage of demand. I can give you some quick numbers. On the commercial market alone, between now and 2030, it's about $850 billion in TAM. The charging for that market is about $350 billion, and the diesel savings is about $150 billion, which gives you a total TAM for just this market segment we're in, about $1.4 trillion.
Oh, those are some big numbers. Well, so a couple of questions coming in from the line here. So we got an active audience, which is always good. The first question, describe how either your business model or life cycle stage compares to peers such as Witcher or Hevo, and how do you differentiate? What's your advantage?
Go for it, Brian. So we share the load here, Brian. We'll pass it back wirelessly here.
As Barry mentioned, we don't really have a lot of competition in the level of power delivery we're doing. So the electricity and the other mentioned, they tend to do 10 and less kilowatts. One of our single pads will do 75 kilowatts. So we're not trying to do low power overnight charging in a garage, if you will. We're doing high power, fast charging, equivalent to DC fast chargers. So it's really not a comparable product. Like we said, we can level up to 75, 150, 300, 450. It's a completely different concept and technology than the lower power. So from that standpoint, but like we do expect, I think to follow up on part of the question, I think it was, correct me, James, was something about the life cycle too as well.
Yeah, life cycle. Yeah, think about it either way, life cycle or just the advantages that you have in your technology.
Yeah, so I think our advantage is one, because there is another high power out there, but they're not modular. They can't use the same system, do multiple vehicle types, multiple vehicle sizes. So our real competition we view as is wired, because no one else in the wireless can kind of do the types of vehicles and
Right.
the variety of vehicles and power levels we can do. So that is what we think our advantage is. We can do all sorts of vehicles at high power using the same infrastructure and the same pads, whether it's 1, 2, or 4 configuration, or even 6. And we can use the same charging infrastructure. So that, and it doesn't matter what the vehicle is. It could be multiple different types of buses, multiple different types of yard trucks. That's one of the main competitive advantages we have. No one else could do that. There's some low power chargers out there, wireless, and there's another high power out there, but no one can do the multiple vehicles like we can, and have the efficiency and the certifications of it.
And so then there's another question that came in from the line is, how do you work with utilities and others to manage kind of load and energy needs as you go through the deployment process?
So we're at the beginning of those stages right now. I don't think the firm thought about us until this new manager team emerged last summertime, fall, and this winter. Here we were basically thinking we were only a hardware company, and we realized, hold on a minute here, we already have locations where we're basically operating, I'll say, a virtual wireless charge network. We didn't realize that until by chance, 2 energy companies came in, which sort of blew Brian's on my mind. They came in both the back door and the front door to the company. The back door they came in is, could they make an investment? So we're in negotiations on that. The front door they came in through the sales organization, say, we'd like to be partners with you in building a wireless charge network. So we're in the very early stages and should be announcing something in the second quarter of this year with at least not 1, 2 of the basically today's clean energy companies.
Okay, got it. And could you maybe talk about your software strategy and what problems and or capabilities will your software be addressing?
Sure. Interestingly enough, a similar example of that. We were already developing software as part of a hardware company. Being a software guy, it's interesting when I walk into hardware companies and find out that their firmware software initiatives are buried underneath the hardware teams. We had a software team that was small, probably about 10% of our workforce. Luckily, our CTO, Tony Calabro, is a software guy in his background and had been building it out. So we had already over-the-air solutions. Our hardware is fully enabled for over-the-air, basically reporting, in which we can tell the owners of the vehicles how those vehicles are performing already, their energy usage, even the quality of the driver, what that driver is doing, the routes they're taking. All that stuff was already embedded in our current Gen 2 product. As we move to our Gen 3 product, being also an AI guy, we're going to embed machine learning in every part of what we do, everything from design and development of our hardware, all the way through software and development and deployment to our customer sets.
Got it. Okay. Well, let's talk about some of your go-to-market strategy, your sales channels here, and specifically, you recently announced the agreement with ChargePoint, which actually is one of our favorite names in the charging space right now. So I'd love to hear kind of how you're attacking the market, what these joint ventures or these partnerships mean, and what the expected outcome is.
Brian, you want to take that? And if I'll follow up if you have any questions, Brian.
Sure. I mean, obviously, we look at down the road where, you should be able to charge wireless or wired off of a lot of these charging infrastructure, the cabinets. So, certainly we think wireless is the future, but there is going to be, shared infrastructure in certain facilities. So we're working with some of the charge point operators that don't have the wireless feature. They have the wired feature, but they don't have the wireless. So there's a lot of interest in having that ability to put off of the same power cabinets, wireless charging features. They're getting a lot of requests from their customers, which is why they're coming to us. So we're working with them to, joint with the networks they have, obviously more focused on commercial fleets right now, which is what our focus is, and building out, relationships where we can leverage the infrastructure people have in place while deploying the wireless charging. So it's as you mentioned, we just announced it's early days, but there's a lot of interest and opportunity in that space.
And the other thing I think we're finding is that labor, as we know in every services industry, is hard to come by. And so what we're finding is that our large commercial customers that we're in the middle of negotiations, some of which you've identified already, have both labor shortages, and they're trying to move to autonomous capabilities, right? And they've already started electrifying their fleet. To ask them to plug something in any more than you'd plug in your phone anymore today, and send someone out there to do a service call on that doesn't make sense to them. So providing them an ability to do this wirelessly and reduce both their real estate footprint and their labor footprint is really important to them, so they can reduce both costs simultaneously.
Got it. Another one came in from the line here that's asking for an update on your patent portfolio. And I know, as you and I have talked, and I've talked to the previous management team in recent years, I mean, that was a big focus in getting those patents out there. Where do we stand today in patent protection, and what's kind of in process?
Yeah, we have 50 patents approximately in our portfolio, with another 50 we're filing here in the next 6 months. We think we're the leader in highest power wireless in this environment. Luckily, we've had some real wins with the USPTO and the IPRs, where there's been challenges to us. So we're feeling quite confident, and we'll be announcing some other things on that front shortly. But as we scale up the business, we're taking a more aggressive posture on a variety of fronts, not just with regard to patent protections and patent violations of our portfolio, but also in basically making sure that the world can, use, as a member of the Python Anaconda community, open source capabilities to get access to the wireless and wired needs they need in the world.
Right. Okay, that makes a ton of sense. And what are we? I know when we and I spoke recently, you laid out kind of 3 things to accomplish here in the near term, 2 of which I think you'd already accomplished. But I think our listeners would be very interested in the goals for right now, and then the goals for kind of 24, 25.
Great question. 2023 is a big year for us to transition, like all companies transition in their early stages, to commercial traction with new management teams. I think we've made real progress against that on a variety of fronts, both the technology management, capital formation, and customer base. 2024 and 2025 are things we're just beginning to look at now. I think we have the beginnings of a very powerful AV management and manufacturing team, which we needed to do. We're building out some more software and AI capabilities. And it goes back to your question of channel partners. I think of us more like Apple and Nike than I think of us as a hardware and distributor or a charge point operator, just given my background, which means that I think you're going to see us with a ton of different partnerships. And having written tons of books on network theory and data moats, I think you'll see us as a large network orchestrator, which is what's called in the software world a platform business, where you'll see us with marketplaces of providers and suppliers, where we basically use machine learning to basically organize that to get to market and serve our customers. There are no shortage of service technicians and networks out there already that exist for the wired world that we need to bring it to the wireless world, of contract manufacturers, of go-to-market providers and partners, and sales organizations. We receive approach for the government sector and DoD. And so I think you're going to see 2024 and 2025 us transition what I call from high-sized, I'll call them pilots, large-scale pilots, to large commercial deployments. I think that's 2024, 2025.
Okay, well, great. Well, I think we're done with questions from the line. I got mine out of the way here. Do you want to give us some closing remarks, Barry and Brian?
Brian, why don't you take a shot? Yeah, maybe Brian, you just take a shot on where we are financially, and I'll take a shot on strategy, things like that.
Right. No, I appreciate everybody's time and joining the call. I mean, as Barry mentioned, we're in a very exciting time transitioning from an R&D shop to a commercial shop, and we already have over 3 times the amount of bookings during the first quarter that we had all revenue last year. So we're getting continued production orders from all our OEMs. So we really see the trend increasing rapidly, and it's an exciting year for us as we're looking to almost 10 times growth certainly want to continue that in the future, as Barry mentioned, with these opportunities. So very, very exciting time for us from the growth standpoint, as well as changing the management and Barry's leadership to get the company going in the right direction. And appreciate everybody's time today.
And I think my closing comment is three things. One, we allow commercial fleet owners to significantly reduce their cost of operations on a fully loaded TCO basis. If you think about it from both a labor and real estate perspective, using wireline means you have to dedicate in a commercial environment, which is very expensive, both people and real estate to basically charging their fleets. It doesn't really work where especially they need to make sure those fleets run 24/7. They can't have extra people going to plug stuff in, and they can't afford the cost of doing that on a dedicated basis. The second thing, I think we all know that large commercial fleets are parts of large commercial organizations. Those large organizations, be them public or private or even not-for-profit, are all actively working on decarbonization and electrification as a means to doing that. And that is not a nice to have, that is a necessary to have, as the world spends, let me give you the numbers, about $4.4 trillion to get to the current carbon state that we have now in 2023, and about $4.4 trillion a year to decarbonize what we spent over the last 100 years to create. And there's going to be increasing public pressure, government pressure, and environmental pressure to decarbonize your commercial environment, which means fleets are a good place to start, especially as you move to a virtualized logistics environment. And the third thing is, there has to be a way to think about fleet management and fleet cost, not just from a perspective of, gee, I can go green and greenwash my portfolio, but I can fundamentally reduce the cost of my activities by changing my fuel type from diesel and carbon type products to non-carbon type products. And in doing that, I think this is an important agenda which people haven't realized. Historically, people who operated fleets sent their fleets someplace else, to a local gas station or diesel fuel stop, to fuel their fleets. Today, for the first time, in all time in eternity, where you fuel your fleets is the same place where your fleets dwell or sleep. And that means not only can you reduce the cost of ownership, but you can be part of the energy grid, both vehicle to grid and grid to vehicle, which means you're going to start seeing large owners, whether it be Walmart, think about this, or our large partners say, well, hold on a minute here. I was never part of the energy grid, but now I'm part of the energy grid. I'm basically providing and using energy. I need to be part of the energy, I'll call it value chain. So I think, again, there's three major opportunities for all commercial opportunities are: one, to basically lower their cost of operations; two, to do with a less expensive and greener fuel type; and three, to ultimately be part of the energy transition as a partner in that transition, not just a recipient of that transition. So I'm very excited.
You summed it up very nicely there, Barry. Thanks so much for your time today. Brian, thanks so much for your time as well. Always good to talk to you guys, and really fascinating what you guys are doing at InductEV. So we look forward to watching your success.
James, next time you charge your vehicle, it better be wirelessly, along with the rest of your investors and partner friends. I don't want to hear you pick up a landline again.
If you install some stuff in Manhattan, let me know.
I'll do it. You will know. You'll be the first to know. Thanks, James.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us
today.
Take care. Bye-bye.